Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Horror Film Lovers Reviews. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and we are going to be talking about a little 1980 film, The Changeling. Not the 2008, I think it was, Nicole Kidman movie, which did not seem like it was anything to do with this movie. And I heard there's going to be there was supposed to be a reboot in 2020, and that never happened. And I kind of glad it never did. I kind of hope it never does. Not just because I'm like all against remakes and reboots. I just feel like it's already been remade and rebooted. After seeing this movie, I felt like I've seen a million other movies just like this that are, today's movies. Including like Insidious. Insidious has and it's different. It's got a little bit, it adds stuff to it, but it's got very much the same stuff. So we'll get into that. Um, and just so you know, this I watched it on um, the Severin Blu-ray, and the Severin Blu-ray, by the way, has audio commentary by director Peter Medak and producer Joel B. Michaels, moderated by Severin Films' David Gregory. The House on Chessman Park documentary. That was the haunting true story of the Changeling. The music of the Changeling. Interview with music arranger Kenneth Wanberg. Didn't know that was Ken Wanberg. Building the House of Horror. Interview with the art director Ruben Fried. The psychotronic tourist of the Changeling, and Master of Horror Mick Garris on the Changeling. So it's got a few awesome special features. So if you buy the Severin Blu-ray, which I definitely recommend, you'll get that. And so I had heard a lot about this movie, and in fact, I heard it was one of the scariest movies. So I was a little worried about watching it at night. I am, even though I'm a horror film lover, sometimes I do get a little freaked out. The last movie to really do that to me was like The Babadook, where it just stuck with me and made me just think of uh the persons that the Babadook or Babadook, Duke, Duke, that kind of thing. Um, The Changeling was very good, very good movie. Um, it didn't scare me, but what it did do, which was great, was it got me hooked. The acting was phenomenal. I mean, what are you gonna expect from George C. Scott? Um, the story was simple, but a lot went on. It wasn't like all in the house. Now, the house was amazing. However, the house was fake. I found this out, and I thought this was interesting. That apparently, though they basically spent $200,000, which in 1980 was a lot more, probably 500,000, close to $1 million today. Um, and they they made the outside of a like Victorian looking, really nice house, and it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful house. And then when you're inside, it's just a bunch of sets. And it really didn't feel like that. It felt like the house that you were watching. They did such a great job with it that I was fooled. But yeah, after knowing that now, like I'm just gonna be, I think I'm gonna be looking at it in a different way. But basically, you go into the house and there's so many rooms and so many cool stuff. There's a music room with a piano. There's a beautiful chandelier. I mean, all of this awesome stuff. Great doors. I mean everything looked authentic and real, even though it was a set. Like it looked, you know, like they did a fantastic job with the production design. So basically the story is there's this guy who's lost his wife and kid in an accident, and he has to kind of start over and go move on with his life. So he moves to this town where he's like going to be teaching at, teaching music, and everybody loves him. Like he's this amazing composer and everything. And so he goes to he needs a house to rent. He wants to rent out a house until he basically gets his footing there and can buy his own house, another house, whatever. So he talks to this lady who I guess his friends. I'm not sure if they who they were, but these people recommended this woman, and she worked at a historical society, and a lot of them they couldn't, they rent out old houses, and so she found him a nice house that nobody would rent, since she's been there, and she didn't know why. Nobody will tell her why. So she ends up, basically pushing it forth and, having it go through, and he goes to the house, and the house is nice, beautiful house, like I said. And he starts to hear things, and at like 6 o'clock, there's this 6 a.m., there's this banging that happens, but it stops, like at a certain time. And you come to find out later that that was the ghost, letting him know like that's the time he died. It was like 6 a.m. And then he starts like playing this music that he just it just gets inspired to make this music. And then later when he's exploring an attic, he finds a music box that has that same music, and he's a little eerie out about it. And uh he starts seeing things in the house, and he starts talking to the lady about it at the historical society place. And one of the women come on there and say, look, no, people, that house doesn't like people, doesn't want people living in it. And what he comes to find out is really, it's not that the house doesn't want people living in it, the house wants people to find, to help, this poor little ghost. And so he goes to a psychic research place, and they talk about a medium coming. And this is where it's like it gets very a couple years later, like poltergeists come out. And in this movie, um it reminded, like, Insidious, like the lady there reminded me of Lynn Shay. Not saying like, anything, like they're not the same character, but like she comes in there, and she's telling her partner, I guess it's her husband, and her husband's, giving her pieces of paper, and she's writing what the ghost is supposedly, the spirit is supposedly telling her, and he records it, so that he can replay it and hear it, and he actually hears the ghost speak. When the ghost is speaking, when she hears the name Joseph, he says Joseph, and all this stuff. But he starts hearing things that she never picked up, I guess, or whatever, and stuff like he can't walk, and he was murdered by his father, or he talked about his father and all this stuff. And so they go digging, and they find out more information, which is kind of funny because they dig and they dig and they literally dig a hole in this woman's house, because she is where the kid was, like, put down the well, and the body, and all this other stuff. So it becomes this like redemption story, and you find out a lot more information, and I don't want to give the ending away, but it is a fiery ending. I'll just say that. And that scene right there is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. Is this the kid pushing the wheelchair that he was in. um so all in all, though, I really, really enjoyed it. Like, I loved it. Like, I absolutely adored this movie. I think this movie is amazing. This movie was fun. This movie was um adventurous, like investigative. You have no idea what's what's happening exactly and where it's gonna go. And that to me, especially when you watch movies in the past, sometimes you see movies that are similar or something, and you're like, oh, I know where this is gonna go because I've seen stuff like this. Nope. This kind of keeps going in a different directions, and I liked it. Like I liked what it did. The couple choices that they made, which were just phenomenal. Like all of it, I thought was great. I would totally recommend this movie if you haven't seen it yet. So yeah, so that's pretty much it, really. There's not much else I can tell you about this. Like I loved it. I'd watch it again and again and again. It's a movie that um once again I would love to like explore more of the behind the scenes stuff, like commentary and everything. And so I may do that at some point. Um, but aside from that, like I just enjoyed watching it. I mean, my favorite scene in the whole movie is he's done as everything he possibly can, at this rate. Like he thinks, right? So he comes in to the um, he comes into the house and all of a sudden Joseph is mad, the young kid, and he's just shutting everything. Right? And opening, shutting, doing all these, moving everything, making all this noise. And George C. Scott's just frustrated. It's like, I've done everything I can for you, man. What else do you want me to do? And it's such a great scene because, like, I would be like that, dude. I'd be like, come on, man. I've dug up your hand, I've done as much as I possibly can. They should have dug up more and dug the whole body up, but they were really trying not to get the police involved because it involved a senator, you know. A senator guy. Oh man, he was so good. He apparently died like I think like a year later after he had done one more movie, which is like Ghost Story, which I've heard also is really good. Haven't seen it. Gotta check that out. I love ghost movies. I really do. I just watched Legend of Hell House for the first time for Film Freaks, and I love ghost stories. I love good ghost stories. Ones that are just terrifying and chilling. And this movie had moments where I could definitely see people being terrified of this movie. You know, I think it's just for me. Um, it just doesn't do anything as much at like these days because I've seen so many. Back when I was a kid, man, I would probably hate this movie. I would be scared of this movie, terrified. This movie probably would have terrified me as a child. Um, it's just so funny to like watch them now and go, one I haven't watched in forever is The Exorcist, which I'm buying on 4K, I swear. I'm gonna buy that on 4K. And that movie did terrify me when I was young. And I think I haven't watched it since just because I've been terrified to see it again. But anyway, it is what it is. It was a lot of, all of this stuff was fun, and I enjoyed this movie. George C. Scott, once again, just, I mean, you know, can't go wrong with George C. Scott, in my opinion. So, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you later. Bye.